Honourable Minister Katali, thank you so much for speaking to Nampa News. A very unique visit to China between the Namibian government and the Chinese government. And on Sunday you met with Mr. Zeng Dongshang, Senior Vice President of CGN. Perhaps for our viewers back in Namibia, what were the negotiations all about?
Yes, basically the meeting was just an extension of the meetings we had in Beijing. Because the ministers in Beijing referred me to CGN group, and that's where now we had the meeting yesterday, and that was basically about the training facility of a nuclear plant and the establishment of a nuclear plant for training in Namibia. We realized that it might not be possible before the government has decided on a model of a nuclear plant that we need to adopt in order for a simulator to be established. But then, however, he indicated that we can put those programs for a general introduction of nuclear energy at either the Polytechnic of Namibia or the University of Namibia, or else we would send students to China to the universities that are teaching the general basic on nuclear energy, so that from there, if we now would like to give a specific training either for the operators or the maintenance, then we can now draw from the pool of those who have been introduced. So everything is on course, and he has promised that for Namibia now to start on the nuclear plant, we need a lot of preparations, and these preparations he will give us some indications as a guideline how to start preparing for nuclear power plant, and this he promised to do it before December.
Honourable Minister, when can we see the wheels start into motion?
Now that is a very difficult question. But they say the 1,000 steps starts with the first step, and therefore for us this is the first step, and there are still 1,000 steps to take. It's not really easy for me to say because the government has not yet taken a decision as number one as to what model of nuclear or the capacity, and all these things need to be planned. And the nuclear plant can actually take something like 10 to 15 years to construct, and that is the construction only. When it comes now to the planning of everything, putting everything together, we do not have engineers as yet. So all this may take maybe 20 to 30 years for us to realize it.
Honourable Minister, is Namibia ready for a nuclear power plant?
Ready in terms of the thinking, yes, we are ready, but still there is a lot to do because sometimes there are negative perceptions against nuclear plant. So we need to educate our people, we need to inform them of how good nuclear, how safe it is and things like that before we can actually embark upon. And the other thing is also that we need to have the off-taker of the power that we produce. If we don't have an off-taker, then it means we cannot have it now.
Honourable Minister, you just mentioned something about the negative perception of people, the danger that people often see in nuclear. You visited a nuclear power plant in China. Your view on that?
You know, sometimes when people talk about nuclear, especially the safety and the environment, one would have thought that when you go to visit a nuclear plant, you have a lot of protective clothes around you to protect you against any radiation or whatsoever. But what I have seen a day before yesterday of a nuclear plant, you cannot actually differentiate from a classroom or from any other building It's so safe. Around the environment, the plants are there. One would have expected the plants to die or things like that, or people who are working there to have protective clothes. But the plant is so made that anything that would harm the human being is concealed, and it will never escape unless if it is a disaster, which disaster can actually come from any other. So the technology is very safe, the technology is very clean. I think to protect our environment from all other issues, I think we need to think about nuclear energy. And also, due to the fact that others in China alone, 28 nuclear power plants are being constructed, of which 13 only by this CGN group. And I was even informed that even the United Kingdom, they are also upgrading and building new nuclear plants. So the world is going nuclear because it's safe, it's cheaper, and it's very competitive. So I think nuclear energy, it's something that in the long term, Namibia should actually embrace.